Sometimes listening to a parent can be the last thing you want to do, but for one museum botanist, a tip from his mother led to a scientific breakthrough. For years, researcher Ken Marr was frustrated when he couldn't find a particular alpine plant in flower where white flowers should have been. Red flower-like growths appeared. It was a mystery which would remain for years until Mom stepped in.
This space here where we have this 227,000 specimens is called a herbarium, or you can think of it as a plant library. So we're out there, we're trying to collect a good scientific specimen of every species on the landscape that we can find. A good scientific specimen has flowers. There's a plant called white mountain heather. So I was looking for plants with white flowers, and sometimes in whole populations there were no plants with flowers. And I didn't realize what I was seeing, and occasionally I would see plants with this kind of little reddish growth at the tip, and I also didn't really understand what that was, other than the fact that I was frustrated because I wanted a flowering specimen. So this is a folder of specimens of Cassiope mertensiana. The common English name is white mountain heather. You can see typical white flowers. They've dried a little different color. And then here's kind of an unusual plant that has, at the tip, it has this abnormal growth. For about 15 years, I was unaware of why I was finding plants without flowers. And then my dear mother sent me an article about a plant that's distantly related to white mountain heather, and it has what's called a flower mimic. And once she sent me that article, suddenly I realized for 16 years or 15 years, when I'd been looking for plants with white flowers and not finding them, it was because of this infection of this fungus. I knew they weren't flowers because they don't have the typical flower parts. They don't have reproductive flower parts. They don't have petals. It's leaf tissue, but it's got abnormal growth due to a fungal infection. And now that I understand it, we're being a lot more intentional about collecting infected specimens of this species, not just the ones with flowers. So the take-home message is always listen to Mom. Be grateful when they send you newspaper articles.
This Week in History, brought to you by the Royal BC Museum, bringing British Columbia's stories together.